Well, hello, everybody. I'm Tim out here in Las Vegas.
I'm Sam out here in the Pacific Northwest, Washington State. How you doing, folks?
Yes, and we are ready for just another show, get together. Sam and I get together once a week just to talk about things, see what we've been playing, and some topics and stuff. But so what's the last week been like for you, Sam? What have you been up
to? We have been moving house, bro. So a lot goes into that. A lot. It's not just the moving. There's so many other things that you don't really think about as you're going through it, unless you're like a super planner, which I am not. And so it's stuff like, Wi-Fi worked great at the old house, so it's going to work great at the new house. No, it doesn't. We're getting a lot of buffering issues. So we've had to call. We're going to be getting a dedicated fiber line for the channel, I'm actually looking forward to it because it's going to make things a lot better for their family because they can stay on our old Wi-Fi network and I can just use the dedicated. We're going to have a gig down and a gig up service. So that's like super good and much better than we have. So I'm hoping that buffering issues will go away. But in order to get there, the way our system up here is set up is that we have to call our public utilities district first. They have to come out and check the materials that are at the house and make sure that they can handle the service that's going to be pumped into them. And then once they sign off on it, then the fiber company that we're choosing can send a technician out and get us all set up and everything like that. So yesterday, the public utilities guy just came out and got that all done. And so now we're going to be calling LocalTel, which is our local fiber network here, to have them send a technician to come out. In the middle of all of that, we're having our kitchen remodeled, which is a cool thing, awesome thing. But it also restricts the time that I'm able to do stuff. They have been very gracious and very helpful in trying to work around my schedule with streaming on the channel. But often it turns into, I got to wait for them to go to lunch or they have to start later, which cuts into their day. And so that's been kind of a juggling act. I get along really well with the guys that are doing it. So that's a good thing. They're a good team of friends of ours because they worked on our other house as well out in Malaga. So basically, we just had a housewarming party last night. We had a bunch of our friends over, and
I didn't get an invitation.
Well, you were kind of out of our sphere of influence, geographically speaking, dude.
Well, I still could have gotten an invitation, Sam.
Yeah. Okay. Well, how does old Jack Burton say it? The check is in the mail. All right. Okay. but that's kind of what my weeks have been, trying to get my stuff up for the Dice Tower, trying to get things up for the Flipside, trying to continue helping my wife unpack boxes and working with the contractors that are redoing the kitchen. That's what my entire week has been about. I'm actually, as soon as we get done here recording this, I'm going to be heading out over to SeaTac to pick up my second oldest and his wife and their baby because they're coming in for the holidays. So I've just got a lot going on, but it's all good stuff. I can't complain about any of it. It's just busy. That's all.
Right. Well, look at that. See, folks, we are graced to have Sam with us. He's got all this stuff going on, and he still makes time to get together.
I didn't like it.
And we could get together and do a show and just and talk. Well, that sounds good, Sam. Yeah, I'm doing a little bit of yard work out front too and out back. So yeah, I know getting all that house stuff done. But you know what I had the chance to do this past what's today? Not yesterday, the day before, is go to the NBA Emirates Cup final, the final game, because they used to be called the in-season tournament. It was Milwaukee Bucks against the Oklahoma City Thunder at T-Mobile Arena. Yeah, so it was the first time I've been to T-Mobile Arena, and
that's cool.
It's a really nice arena. And a funny little story. So the tickets I had, I was very fortunate to get comped from the Las Vegas Convention Authority. Since we've been running conventions for so many years, sometimes they give us tickets and stuff. And so we get in there and we're trying to find our seats. And I read a sign wrong, and I thought it said our section was upstairs. So we took the elevator to get way up to the top level. And we get up there, and I asked the guy, I was like, hey, are we in the right section? He's like, oh, wait, man. He goes, well, look, go over there. He goes, see that lady over there? Go over there and talk to her. She's giving away comp tickets to floor seats. And we're like, really? So we went over there, and we got tickets at like 10th row center court off the floor.
Oh.
She was just like, there were promo tickets they were handing out. It was like a club level. They had a bar and food and all that kind of stuff.
Dang.
So, yeah, like a stupid mistake on my part for navigation ended up turning into a great reward for the night. So it was kind of cool.
No, that's not a stupid mistake, brother. That's providence.
There you go. There you go. Yes. But you know, like, do you go to live sports at all, or like any games?
Yeah. Yeah, we're season ticket holders for our local hockey team, man. We go to hockey games all the time.
Oh, do you really? Because I've only seen very few. I mean, I used to go to a lot of baseball games when I lived in South Florida because I used to have my grandparents down for like a month in the summer to stay with me, or in the spring or whatever. And they have the spring league down there, so we would see a lot of baseball, and he loves it. But you know, I don't know. To me, when it's on TV, it just makes it so much bigger and grander and larger than life. In person, it's just like a bunch of big men playing basketball. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It just didn't do much for me.
Yeah, I get that. And I'll go ahead and say this right now. Basketball is my least favorite sport. But with that being said, I agree with that to a certain extent. What I mean by that is that, for example, baseball games, I love going to a baseball game at the park. I love going to a baseball game at the park. You asked me to watch a baseball game on TV, I will fall asleep. It is so boring.
Well, hold on a second. Because baseball, to me, like you say, basketball is your least, baseball is just plain out boring. What is the big difference, Sam? If you're saying that, you know, like you don't watch it on TV because it's boring, which it is, why is it any more exciting live?
Because you aren't, like, if you watch it on TV, you're just watching what the cameras are showing you. But if you go into the parks are so big, you can look at, and the parks are so nice nowadays, you can look at anything. You can look at the spectacle of the freaking scoreboard, for crying out loud. You can look at what that person over there is doing and how funny that looks. And, you can watch the game for a little bit, and then you can go and watch this. So there's so many other points of interest in a park. But on TV, you're just restricted to what the cameras are pointing at. And I know they have, hundreds probably of cameras in there, and they're going from a number of different angles, but you're restricted in a park. And when you're sitting there, it's the sounds, it's the interaction with the people that are around you. There's so many other things going on. I love going to watch hockey games. And I enjoy watching hockey games on TV as well. But being at the rink is completely different. You've got the coldness in the air from the ice. You've got the sounds. You've got for example, you can't usually hear the sound of the puck hitting the stick, the blade, on TV. But you hear every single stick, every single puck hitting the blade, it's all there. And watching a sport in person, to me, is usually 100 times better than watching it on TV. Usually.
I mean, I understand what you're saying, but the first part of what you were saying, you're not necessarily talking about how the game is enjoyable, because you even said about how you watch it. And you're right, because I didn't realize a timeout in the NBA, because for TV it was 3 minutes and 15 seconds, because on TV during that time, sorry, all
those ads, you gotta have time for all the ads.
Yeah, on TV during that time they're running ads and stuff. But in the arena, they've got little shows coming out, little contests. They got things in the stand. They got people throwing T-shirts. Yeah, so they got all this kind of stuff going on that's good. But if you're interested in just the game, I would just prefer, because again, now with the technology, which is kind of cool, with the big screens, they got up on the top of the roofs, the ceilings or whatever. They show the instant replays, they show the refs calls and all that kind of stuff. So you are getting kind of the same stuff you would get from TV, that,
Sure.
maybe 20, 30 years ago you didn't get because they didn't have the technology back then, right? So
Right.
and plus you get all that spectacle. Yeah, I get
Yep.
that. But yeah, I don't know. It was okay. It's one of those kind of things. I don't think I would ever pay nowadays to go see a professional sporting event, but for a comp ticket, it was okay.
No, absolutely. Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of people. For example, my buddy JT, I think I've invited him and his family, not just him. I've invited them to come to hockey games with us. I don't know, probably anywhere from 5 to 10 times now, and he said no every single time because he has no interest, none. He has no interest whatsoever. I think Hawken came one time because for some reason I can't remember what it was. It was something where they needed Hawken. We needed to watch him for some reason. I can't remember what the reason was, but so he came once. But that's the only person. JT and Mel, they've never come because there's no interest, and it's no hard feelings, but it's just kind of supporting what you're saying there. There are people that just have no interest to go see a live sporting game, sports ball game of anything. Right. We got, I'm in kind of the same spot. We got a friend of ours at church got her dad has season tickets to the Seahawks games, and her dad and his friends weren't able to go one Sunday, so he gave them to her, and there were 4 of them, and she didn't want to go by herself, so she asked me and Jess, and we took Aiden along because he loves football. But I'm not going to go out and pay money for Seahawks tickets unless it's the Bears, unless the Bears are in town. And the way the Bears are playing right now, I might think twice about that. So, it's just, but if somebody's going to invite us to go to a game, absolutely, because you get to see these guys that you see on TV all the time in person, and they're standing right there. And these seats were actually really good seats. So I'm kind of in the same boat on some sports with you, but if I get the chance to go to a Blackhawks game over with the Seattle Kraken, I will probably drop almost anything to make sure that happens. Right. As it is, we have season tickets to our local hockey team, the Wenatchee Wild. They're part of the WHL, which is just a couple of tiers off of the NHL, really just one. You can go straight from the WHL to the NHL, but these guys are like 16 to 19 years old, playing hockey, and they're just kind of getting their legs underneath them, and it's really good hockey, kind of right. If you compare it to the NHL, it's like, oh man, our guys suck.
Right. Yeah, of course.
But it's like the best kind of hockey that you can get for a reasonable price. Like we wouldn't be able to afford season tickets for our family to the Kraken. We would not be able to afford that. It's astronomical. But little foreign team, AA hockey, yes, we can afford that.
With all of being so busy with all the stuff with the house and everything, you've been able to get any games in?
Yeah, I mean, we've been able to get a few games in. I mean, it's been stuff for the channel, but it is what it is. It's still playing games. JT and I played a game called Viking Route last Friday on the channel, and it is a game from Aries Games. It was on Kickstarter, and I have to see. I think it might still be going as we're recording this. I think it ends tomorrow, but it won't be. It'll be done by the time this actually goes live. But they have funded. They have funded by. They just funded. They were looking for $15,000, and they got $20,000 right now as we speak, with 29 hours left to go. But it's a neat little game where it's a cooperative game. Each person takes on the role of a Viking that is a member of a ship, a member of the crew of this Drakkar that's sailing through these different lands,
Uh-huh.
and there is a board on the table that holds a compass piece, and that compass piece, like a legit compass, magnetically charged and everything, it sits on the board and represents your Drakkar on the board. But it also has another board that is the Drakkar, and it's actually like a 3D construct of a Drakkar that looks pretty good. I mean, it's rudimentary, but it looks pretty good. It's functional. It was a prototype as well. But anyway, there are basically 6 different areas on that Drakkar that you can choose to go that will allow you to do different things. If you go to the front of the ship, it's going to allow you to shoot the ballista at the bad people that are attacking you. If you go to the sails, then you can change how far you're going to move and all of this other kind of stuff. And there's a hold where you can go and get supplies and that type of thing. But it's interesting because there, around the board that represents the world, there are 3 ravens. And all 3 of those ravens are magnetically charged. They have magnets inside of them. And then the wind is another piece that has a magnet inside of this, but it's also a stronger magnet. And so those magnets are placed around the board, and your compass is going to be affected by those magnetic fields. And so when it moves wherever true north is pointing on the compass. It's going to be a red arrow on the compass in the final product. But so you have to, the puzzle is trying to navigate your ship throughout these magnetic fields to accomplish certain goals. It's a scenario-based game to accomplish the goals that you need to beat the scenario. And you only have a limited amount of time to do it. And it's really an interesting game. I think it might be, I don't know why it didn't fund as well as it did. It might just be not what people are looking for at this point in time. Ares Games is the one that's doing it. Okay. I think they have a pretty good track record as far as games are concerned. I haven't heard any bad things about Ares. I'll put it that way. So I don't know why this one didn't fund better than it did. It did fund. It is going to be produced. It did make it. But I enjoyed myself. I don't know how much longevity it will have. Right. Because once you've played through all of those scenarios, I guess, because where your ship pops up on the board is randomly determined at the beginning of every game. So that would change it, but I don't know. It did fund, so it is going to be coming out. We enjoyed ourselves. JT and I played it. We both took on 2 characters. I don't know what the other player counts would do. If you have 4, everybody takes their own. I don't know what you do with single, but I played it solo mode, but that was just because I wanted to see how it worked, and I just used 4 Vikings and did 4 things. But I really enjoyed it.
Good. Well,
but
now
it barely funded.
Well, now that it's out there and people know about it, hopefully they'll see this. They can go check it out, and maybe the game will get some legs. Pick up some.
Yeah, maybe Late Pledge will kick it up a little bit.
Yeah. Let me see. I played. I had a chance. It was an Essen game that we got, and I just had the chance to get it to the table this past weekend, and that was Galileo Galilei. I don't know if you've heard of that one. Yeah, it was pretty hot. In the thumbs up, on Board Game Geek for hot games for Essen or whatever, and it was good. And I'm looking forward to playing it again. I'm one of those kind of people. I can't read rules ahead of time and understand the game. Some people are really good at it. Oh, you're one of those too. You're like me too.
I hate reading rules, bro.
Yeah, like Richard, Rahdo, Richard Ham Rahdo. That's what he can. That's what he says, how he determines what he's going to review and stuff. And I have friends like that too. Like if we used to learn a game, they read the rules and they're like, okay, I got it. And they get it. And I'm just like, man, I need to do stuff. I need to, whatever. So I read the rules after I played the game. And I'm like, yeah, I definitely want to play it again because now I have a good understanding. But even while I was playing, I really enjoyed the game. I liked the theme. I liked how they had the comets. You were observing stuff in the sky. You had the telescope. So everything was nicely intertwined. The only thing, sometimes, you probably know what I'm talking about, Sam, with games, they had this little, they had Inquisitors, or I don't know, but it was an Inquisition track. I think they were called Inquisitors or whatever. And if you picked up Inquisitors and they and you tried to sway him or something, then you had to have an inquisition at the end of each turn. And I get, because in the rule book, they have like a little paragraph that says what the Inquisitors were about or blah, 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 with Galileo and Copernicus, his peers, whatever, things like that.
No one expects the Spanish Inquisition.
Yeah, but, because I get, maybe they were heretics, like people observing the sky and saying, I don't know. But that one little thing sort of held me back when I was playing the game, right? Because I'm like, okay, I understand comments. I understand observing stuff. I understand this, that, blah, blah, blah. But what's this Inquisitor? It just didn't fit for me, and I couldn't quite understand it. But once I got it, get it. And now that I've read the rules, I'm like, oh, okay, I kind of see how it fits, how it goes together. But you ever had that sometimes happen where one little thing in a game just seems to be out of place, and it sort of takes it hard for you to grasp the whole game?
When I was teaching myself first edition Zombicide from Cool Mini or Not back then, now it's Simon, they had one rule in there, and it was a friendly fire rule. And just the way I don't mind friendly fire rules, but the way they did it is like the way it was originally done, if I remember correctly, was that if you shot into a group of zombies where one of your people were, you had to hit them first, even if you didn't miss. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And it totally ruined the game for me. Totally ruined the game for me. Well, then Black Plague came out and they fixed it. I think they changed it to, if you rolled a miss, then you had the possibility of hitting one of your people that were in that area if you were shooting into an area where one of your heroes were, which made a lot more sense. You had to miss what you were shooting at first before you had the possibility of hitting one of your people that were already in there. But that one little thing threw the entire game off for me because I hated it. I was just like, that is so dumb. I'm not going to shoot at my people.
Right.
Even if I am shooting into a group, I can clearly see zombie person. I'm shooting the zombie, and it just didn't make sense. So I totally get that. I totally understand what you're saying.
Yeah, that's happened to me a couple of times. It's funny how that happens in some games for me where, and I'm sure it happened, like you said, with you and a lot of other people, where whatever it is, just one thing sort of gets
throws it all off.
Right, just throws it all off. Yeah, that's interesting. Anything else you got to the table?
Let me see. I'm having to think because I actually was a good boy this week, and I put everything away after game night. So now I'm having to look on my shelves to see what we played. But I do know that I just reviewed yesterday on the Dice Tower. I just reviewed Monolith. That's another game that I've been playing a lot of lately. Okay, Monolith doesn't count. You told me that only two.
Well, obviously it wasn't that exciting if you can't remember.
No, it was because they loved it. Oh, it was Stone Spine Architects. I remember now. Stone Spine Architects.
Oh, yes.
From Thunderworks Games. And it's one of those situations where a buddy of mine was looking at it at game night, and we decided to play something else. And when we got done with that game, I just went and picked up Stone Spine Architects because he had already shown interest in it. And he said, I can't remember if I played this game or not, so let's play this game. And so we sat down, we played a 4-player game of it, and he absolutely loved it. He took a picture of the box. He says, I'm picking this up. I love this game. And I just love that kind of experience whenever you get to introduce a game to somebody. After we started playing through it, he kind of said, I think I may have played this game before. I just can't remember where or with who. And I was like, well, we might have shown you how to play it before because we got a prototype copy in, and we did a playthrough, a Kickstarter playthrough for Thunderworks as the project was going on. So we've had a copy of the game for a while. So it's possible that we taught it to him so long ago he can't exactly remember, but he loved the game. He said he was going to go purchase it. It's a great little game where you're basically just building. There's going to be you're building a dungeon for a customer, and you build your dungeon one level at a time. You start with the entrance level, and then you go down, and then there's also an exit level. And you're populating your dungeon rooms with traps and with monsters and with all of these different kinds of things as you go through the game. And the main way that you get the different rooms of your dungeon is a closed draft, where you pick a card from your hand, you pass it, and then that card that you picked gets put into your dungeon immediately. So that's a really cool mechanism. I love drafting. But the other cool thing about it is that it's also a spatial organization game where there's a possibility for you to score a point for every room, and there's 16 rooms in your dungeon. There's a point for you to score at the end of the game. You'll score a point for every room that will be connected to your entrance and to your exit. You score 1 point for each. So each room could score you an additional 2 points at the end of the game, which means that you could score an additional 32 points at the end of the game if you're able to get all of your rooms connected to both your exit and your entrance. And another thing about that is that you get a blueprint at the beginning of the game, and that tells you where the customer wants all of these different elements. And depending on how many of those elements you get, there's 8 of them, you'll get bonus points at the end of the game. If you get all 8 elements where the customer wants it, then you get an additional 20 points. So if you're good at organizing things and getting them where they need to be, that's like an additional 52 points that you can score at the end of the game, which most games go around like 100, 120. So you're like halfway there to doing well. Right. So it's a really fun game. It's a game that after we played the prototype a few times, we backed all in.
Nice.
Just as, Jess and I as a couple, business things aside, we just really enjoyed it. And so that's another one that we've been playing, and it's a good one. But I've also been playing Monolith, so I snuck 3 games in.
You did. I see that. I'll have to check out that Stone Architects. We actually have that game in the library. Yeah. So I have to check that one out. You know what I got to the table? This is more of a filler game, but I probably haven't played this game in at least a year, probably maybe even 2 years. And one person had never played it before and absolutely fell in love with it, and that's The Mind. And
The Mind?
The Mind. Yep.
MIND?
Yes. Have you never played that one, Sam? That's the game. Oh, do you really?
I don't like it at all. But you go ahead, man. Share your love.
Yeah. So I know. You know what's funny is my wife hates it too, because I remember. No, I'll tell you why. When I taught her, because you have to sort of look at each other, right? You have to put down the cards, and and she just kept saying, "Why are you looking at me? What are you looking at me for? Why do you keep staring at me?" She just, yeah. But anyway, but yeah, and I mean, I like The Mind. I like that genre of games, of fully cooperative games with hidden information. I know it's a little, it's random, and it to me, The Mind is sort of one of those all-in games, and what I mean by that is people either love it or people like you, maybe my wife, just hate it. I don't know if there's a middle ground with The Mind, right?
Right. Well, The Mind is a terrible thing to waste.
The Mind is a terrible thing to play, in your opinion. But I love the game, and we really enjoyed it. It was really fun. With 3-player, I think we had to get 10, right? Because I think it's 8 with 4, 10 with 3, 12 with 2 to win the game, 10 levels. We only got to level 8, I think. We tried a couple times, but they just kept wanting to play more. We got to beat the game. We got to beat the game. And it's just it's one of those games. And the thing about it, yes, I can understand why people don't like it because of the gameplay, but the satisfaction that you get at the end of each round is just incredible. Like when you complete a round, you're all collectively like, like you need a cigarette or something. You know what I mean? Like it's just it's so amazing.
Right.
So, but yeah, I was really glad we got that to the table.
That's good. Yeah. I've just, it's the hidden information part that I hate about it. I'm not one that does well at figuring out hidden information on the fly. Now, if if I need to figure something out and I'm able to just sit down and focus on it and not worry about anybody else talking to me, I actually enjoy doing that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But like games like Deception, Murder in Hong Kong, that has hidden information, but there's a social aspect of it, and you can talk and you can and look at how people are explaining themselves, and there's a lot of other kinds of extraneous type of information that you can pull from. In a game like The Mind, you're like your wife is saying, "Why are you looking at me?" It's like, why are you staring at me like that? I didn't do anything. Stop. It's that kind of thing. So it makes me feel uneasy, and that's why I don't enjoy it.
Right.
But I get that elation that you get whenever you actually are able to work everything out. I get that. It's akin to rolling that die in Battlestar Galactica when you're on your last jump and you need to roll a 7 or an 8, and you roll an 8, and it's like you win the game on that one. It's the same feeling,
Right.
So
yeah.
I totally get it, but yeah, I've never really enjoyed The Mind. I was blown away at how popular that game was back in the day. I just did not get it. But
again, I think it's an all-in game. There are those who really, really love it, and those who don't. But yeah, so that was good. So one of the things I find kind of interesting, Sam, that comes up a lot in gaming, especially because I have one of the groups I play with every week aren't like seasoned gamers like us, right? Who've been playing, more than a decade or a couple decades or years, whatever. So I'm introducing them to games. And it's funny because sometimes they'll ask me about a game, and the first thing that comes to my mind, I don't want to say it to them. I'm like, oh yeah, no, I've outgrown that game. I don't play it anymore. Right. Yeah. And I'd rather teach them games that I've learned through experience. So I just want to talk about and what your thoughts would be on that phrase, I've outgrown a game. Yeah. Because it could mean different things to a lot of different people. Sometimes people take it as a pejorative. Like if you say I've outgrown that game, now you're implying that game is just crap. Like it's not good. And you're like, no, that's not it at all. So, so what are your sort of initial thoughts? Like what does that sort of mean to you? That phrase, I've outgrown a game.
Well, I do think because of its sometimes, I guess, negative connotations that are applied to it, I think I rarely use that phrase, or I would rarely use that in a situation where I'm talking to somebody who is just getting into gaming, because I don't want to give them the idea that they are interested in a game that I think is crap. Now, that doesn't mean That doesn't mean I'm going to lie to them. If they ask me, what do you think about this game? I'm going to say, well, I think it does this well. I think it does this well. And I used to play this game a lot, but since then I found this game that does what it did much better, and so forth and so on. I'll try to be very tactful, I guess would be the best way to say it. But I think outgrowing a game is inevitable. Now, that doesn't mean that you will outgrow every game, but I think the nature of our industry is that, by and large, when a new game comes out, it is basically being released upon the shoulders of X, Y, and Z games.
Correct.
Rarely, and I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, but rarely will you find a game that is completely fresh, that is full of brand new mechanisms that have never been seen before, or at least have never been seen before on a large scale. Right. I think many games, if not all, but I'm just going to stick with many. I think many games are released upon the shoulders of other games. They're borrowing this mechanism from that game, or they're borrowing that mechanism from this game over here, and they're putting them together. And the novelness or the novelty of the game comes from the marriage of those two mechanisms that were before into different games. Right. So I think that outgrowing games is somewhat inevitable, because as we continue playing newer games, that is going to lessen. I'm not going to say totally negate, but I'm going to say it's going to lessen the interest that you have in the older games, because some of these newer games do what the older games did. They just do it a little bit better or a little bit fresher or what have you.
True. But there's sort of like, to me, there's sort of like two sides of this point because of something you brought up. So like the example for me, I'll say, like, for example, my first Euro game, right, in this hobby, in the hobby gaming world, was Catan. Now, that is a term I use when I say sort of I've outgrown. And the reason is because, you're rolling dice, sort of that old school, like Monopoly thing of just total randomness where you don't have control. And then once I learned this other world, more into the hobby gaming, where you sort of can dictate your actions and what you do and how the game progresses, then rolling dice and randomness is no longer appealing to me. And so in a sense, I've outgrown that concept, right? But in no way am I saying that Catan's not a good game and people shouldn't play it. I mean, it's a great, it got me started, right? So I do have an affection for it. And it's really good at what it does. So to me, that's one side, right? Where you sort of just, you, by your experience and growth in the sort of hobby in general, you've outgrown that type of, say, mechanic or whatever. The other side, what I think you're talking about also, is about how you're saying it's inevitable. The other instance I'll give you was with Agricola. I remember right about when I first got into gaming, Agricola hit number 1 on BGG. And I was like, you know what? If I'm getting into this hobby, if I'm going to be a gamer now, I need to learn the number 1 game. And it was very difficult for me, right? Coming from the hobby, coming from the mass market gaming world, which I played a lot of, into this, Agricola was, like light years from where my level was, right? So I remember, like, we would have games in like the teens, like if you got 12 or 13, and then I played it more. We got up to, 20s. And I would tell people, if you get into the 20s, you had an okay game. The 30s, you had a good game. And if you get over 40, you had a great game. But then as the years progressed and I played the game more, and then my experience in just gaming in general got better, I would play Agricola and I would always get over 40 constantly. So in that sense, I've sort of outgrown Agricola too, because I'm not going to say I've mastered it, because trust me, I'm far from mastering it.
Careful now.
No, I know. Yeah, I know. But it's just that I feel that I've outgrown it, because you know what I mean? So there's a couple of sides to that argument.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Tom and I, back in the day, we felt like we had outgrown Shadows over Camelot because we had a stretch where we did not lose. And I'm talking like 5 or 6 games where we did not lose. And and it wasn't that we just didn't lose. We soundly won. Like 5 or 6 games in a row. We were like, oh, we've got this figured out. As soon as we said that, 8 games. I don't think we won again. And then we were like, screw this game. I don't like it anymore. That kind of stuff. But with Shadows over Camelot, you've got that random factor of the darkness deck, and you have to shuffle that together. We actually, one of our buddies in Korea at the time, we actually said, you can no longer shuffle the cards in this game because we've always lose when you shuffle the cards. and so it was stuff like that. But I totally get what you're talking about as far as reaching a point where a game just doesn't have any more interest for you. It's not that it isn't a good game. It's just that you've moved on, so to speak.
Right.
And it's hard relating that reality to someone coming into the hobby and not having it sound negative. It's really hard.
No, it is very much so. Yeah.
So I'm really I'm almost to the point where I have to consciously almost mask how I really feel about the game.
Oh, yes.
So that I'm, and again, I try very hard not to be misleading or deceptive or anything like that, because I do feel that honesty is always the thing that you should be shooting for.
Correct.
But you want to stay positive as well. So if I am, if I'm done with the game, I have to be able to tell the person what I liked, past tense, about the game as well as I can. And with my memory, that's really hard because I can't remember sometimes what I liked about the game. Oh, it's got great artwork, that kind of thing. I'm like, you're stuck to that kind of stuff. But sometimes, especially if you haven't played the game in forever, because you've moved on, it's really hard to talk about the things that you liked about the game and why you used to play it a lot and relate that to why you don't play it that much anymore.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right, Sam. And one of the important things about what you're saying, I think, is if you do go back to, say, a game you haven't played for a while, right? Like if somebody came up to me and said, hey, I really want to play. I've heard about this game, Settlers of Catan. I really want to play it. And I go back and teach it to them or whatever. You really have to work hard at consciously remembering, hey, what did this game do to me? How did I feel when I first learned it, right? And you have to try to really go back in your history, grasp that feeling, and bring it forward. Like I can't go into it now and be like, oh, man, I'm going to be sitting here rolling dice for the next hour. God, it's going to suck me horrible. Right? You can't do that. So when you do go back to a game, like you said, even though you may have forgotten it, you have to remember how it did make you feel at one point when you did love that game, right?
Yep. Well, that's one of the reasons why on the flip side, and I'm not, a shameless plug here, but on the flip side, we have Tuesdays. And on Tuesdays, I usually do 2 streams. The first stream is called It Belongs in a Museum, where I pick a game that is on my shelf that is older. We don't put an arbitrary, we don't put a number of years on it, but generally speaking, it's older than 5 years old.
Okay.
And that's kind of like the window. It's 5 years or older, how old it is. And so I pull down a couple of games off my shelf and I open it back up and I look at it and I talk about it. And it's kind of like an unboxing for old games. And so that's what I do. And then my wife and I play an older game live stream in the evenings after she gets back from work. And what I found is exactly that. It helps me remember why I enjoyed these games in the past, and it gives me the opportunity to get some of them back to the table to see if I still like them as much as I need to in order to keep them in my collection.
Right.
I think, and we might stray a little bit off topic here, but I think that is one of the, the miracle sauces of keeping myself not in the cult of the new. Now, as content creators, we kind of have to be cult of the new, right? Because that's what everybody wants to watch content about. But that's one of the reasons why we focus on the older games on Tuesdays, so that we can kind of stay grounded, so to speak, because we don't want to be always chasing after the new shiny bling that's coming out next year.
Right.
Or, and what I mean by that is, the stuff that's on Kickstarter right now, it's not going to come out for another year, at least sometimes, sometimes 2 years. So we want to have some type of focus on older stuff because, frankly, this is all older stuff.
Yeah.
The newer stuff hasn't made it back here yet because we haven't played it. I'm really looking forward to getting Rebirth to the table. I just got my Kickstarter copy. Nice. Another Reiner Knizia game that's based in Scotland and Ireland, and it looks really good. It's got really neat components. I like the ease of the game. It comes from Dr. Knizia, so I'm really looking forward to that. But it's not back here yet because I haven't played it yet. Right. All this stuff is stuff that I've played and stuff that I've enjoyed in the past. Well, I've got to remember that. Remember who you are, Simba. That kind of thing.
Right.
So I think that's the antidote, right? Of trying to keep yourself savvy on the older games that are going to appeal to people that they're not older games to the new people. They're new games.
True. That's true. But again, this is like a whole nother topic. But you did, bring something out that reminded me of something when you pointed to your collection behind you, your games. And I want to get to the point, because a lot of these games, because I, own the Board Game Cafe for many years and the convention stuff, I'm able to, very fortunate in the fact that I just sometimes just get a lot of games, right? So a lot of these necessarily aren't games that I bought or I would buy or would have on the shelves. They just end up being here. Yeah. But I just want to say that because I do want to get to a point, and I keep telling myself I'm going to do it. 25, I'm going to do it. I'm going to say it right now. Here we go. And 25 is going to be the year finally, where I really want to have a shelf of games where no matter who comes over and they're like, oh my God, you have ABC game? I love that game. Let's play. And I want to be like, absolutely, take it off and do it. If you have a game on your shelf and somebody comes over and goes, oh, you've got that game. That's one of my favorite games. Let's play it. You're like, nah, I'm not in the mood, or I've kind of outgrown that game, or whatever you say. Why is it sitting there?
Why is it still there? Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So I really want to get to that point where you're always going to have those older games that are going to give you that joy of gaming when they're put on the table, right?
One of the things that I've usually I've tried to start doing, and is I try to find a version, because a lot of those older games have different versions that are out there now.
Yes.
For example, Pandemic. Pandemic. I don't know that I would ever want to play base box Pandemic again. I will. I still own it. But for example, if I want to play Pandemic, or if somebody says, hey, I love Pandemic, I'll pull down Star Wars: The Clone Wars. Okay. That's made in that Pandemic system. It's the same system. It's got little nuances here and there. I'll pull that down and say, well, hey, if you've played Pandemic, maybe I'll play Pandemic with them first. I'm interested in this game. It's new to me. I'll play Pandemic. Did you like that? Yeah, I love it. All right. Well, what about this one? You like Star Wars? Yes, I like Star Wars. That kind of thing. Another one is for Catan. My favorite one is Catan Geographies Germany. And that's the copy of Catan for my library, for my collection. If somebody likes Catan, and they want to play Catan, I don't own Catan, but I own Catan Geographies Germany, and it plays exactly the same, except you're able to build some of those landmarks that are and historical monuments. In addition to everything else that you do in regular Catan, you're also able to build these other landmarks and monuments, national monuments. And it's got that real rich historical background to it. Carcassonne. If somebody wants to play Carcassonne, I've got, I think, 8 different versions of Carcassonne. And while I maybe don't want to play vanilla Carcassonne, maybe I'll want to play Amazon, or the ones that are in the South Islands, or I can't remember what it's called. But there's a number of different. Don't play Star Wars Carcassonne. Don't do that.
Right, but here, okay. But here, this goes back to what the point you brought up about sort of it's inevitable, or it could be, because what I mean is, for example, the situations you brought up with Pandemic and Carcassonne, you can still stay within the same game essentially, right?
Yeah.
So you can sort of outgrow base Catan but you still love that sort of concept, but you have chosen out of the Catan world, Catan Germany's. You've quote unquote outgrown base Pandemic, and you've chosen Star Wars. You know what I mean? So you can still, fulfill that. And it's good, I think, a lot of times that publishing companies do that, because then they're still able to keep the customer, right? Because basically, I know I don't want people to go crazy, but basically sort of, I want to say like Catan has sort of lost me as a customer. You know what I mean? But there may be a way, because I haven't played them all, where I could go back and they could still have me as a customer. So it's a good way for publishing companies to do that, because you can always keep people as your customer, right?
Yep, absolutely. And even for Catan, the new energies or something like that has just come out. That's interesting to me as well. So while I've been done with Catan for quite a long time, they came out with New Energy, I think is what it's called, Catan New Energies or something like that. Where it almost looks like a lessened down version of like Power Grid, where you're trying to use all of these new technologies and these new power sources that are coming out. It looks interesting to me. I've never played it, haven't really heard any positive or negative buzz about it, but that falls in line with that idea that you're talking about. You know, even Catan, that has been long since outgrown for me. They came out with that new product, and I was like, huh, well, that looks interesting.
There you go.
So, yeah, I absolutely get what you're saying. And I think that's an important thing. But I think as seasoned gamers, we need, in order to battle this idea of outgrowing games, especially if we're in positions where we're constantly, or maybe not constantly, but frequently playing games with new people, we need to be very conscious about how an old game to us will be very new to somebody else.
Yes.
And our history with the game shouldn't taint their budding experience with the game. And I think that's where we need to draw the line. We can't let our history with games affect somebody's new experience with it.
That is absolutely true. And again, you know, trying to close this out, exactly what you're saying, you know, because again, everybody puts down like Monopoly, right? In our elitist community of the hobby board gaming. But listen, I would argue that 90% of us played the heck out of Monopoly and loved it when we were younger, right?
You're correct.
You know, so we shouldn't keep like disparaging Monopoly.
Well, I will also say that I think most of the things that people hate about Monopoly are house rules, and they're not actually how you're supposed to play Monopoly anyway.
There you go.
Now, and I just recently found that out with Uno, because we bought Uno Elite at Walmart over the Thanksgiving week, because my son's big into football, and you can actually draft your own characters, your own football players, and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, as we were playing Uno Elite, they were like, well, can we do this? I'm like, nope, that's a house rule. Well, what about this? Nope, that's a house rule. What about this? Nope, that's a house rule. No, I've always played it. It's right here. I got the rule book right here. It's not in the rule book, you know?
That's right.
So that's, I mean, like, I think free parking in Monopoly is one of the most egregious problems, house rules ever, because it just continues to keep the game going. Correct. You're supposed to run out of money at some point. That's how the game ends. Yes. So, you know, it's just the way it is. So I totally get it, you know, and you'd have to, I'd like to be in an ivory tower, but you'd have to twist my arm pretty stinking hard to get me to play Monopoly again. It would probably have to be a Star Wars version at some point.
You know, I did enter a Monopoly tournament. I'd be probably 25 years ago, 30 years ago. I would have won, but I made the unfortunate mistake of I didn't fully understand the game. And at the end of the game, what I did, it was like two tables going. And at that point, whoever ended up with the most money would win. And I won at my table. The other three were out, but I unmortgaged my properties because I thought that they'd be worth more unmortgaged, which they are, but I was losing cash doing that. Yeah. You know, and that lost me the game because this other guy only beat me by like $180 or $200 at the end of the table.
Jeez.
Yes, but no, again, you're right. You'd have to do some real convincing or take me out to dinner to get me to sit down and play a game.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Sam, it has been absolutely fantastic spending some more time with you again this week.
Yes, sir.
I'm really glad everything's coming along with the house and continued success with that. Have a wonderful holiday with the family. I know you said your second oldest is coming in, so that'll be nice, right? Getting all the family together.
Yep. And then we've got the cruise coming up, man. You going to be on the cruise?
Absolutely. Yep. So we'll see you there.
I'll see you there. Let's play some games.
Sounds fantastic.
Not Teotihuacan, though, bro.
What's that?
Not Teotihuacan.
Not Teotihuacan. Okay.
Let's not play that game. Let's play
we'll play Monopoly or Catan. How about that?
No. I'll play Teotihuacan. I'm sorry. Don't hurt me.
Yeah, it sounds great. All right. Well, thanks again. And everybody, thank you again for watching. Please, comment below. Tell us how you're liking. Give the thumbs up. Subscribe to the Dice Tower, all that kind of stuff. Absolutely. Last but not least, I'm real sorry to not forget. Tickets for Dice Tower East are on sale right now. That's a convention on the East Coast in Orlando in July. So you can go ahead and buy that. And Dice Tower West is right here in Las Vegas in March. So those badges are available for that convention too. So give them away as Christmas presents, give them out to your family and friends. Let them go to those events. But we will see you the next time right here on the Dice Tower channel. So I'm Timm Metivier. See you guys later.
I'm Sam. See you later on the flip side.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you like this review or whatever you just watched, wasn't it amazing? Check out our channel, Dice Tower. We have all kinds of things. We review games, we do top 10s, we play games live. It's all about board games, but especially the people who play them. Check out Dice Tower YouTube channel.